was just another Sunday morning in a quiet Nigerian town. Birds chirping, people staring, parishioners putting on their Sunday best, and in a little parish in Edo State, Nigeria, Father Christopher Odia was up early, like always, calm, focused, ready to celebrate the Eucharist, something he had done so many times before. But this Sunday would be different. He opened the rectory door just after dawn, vestments carefully folded over his arm. The sun wasn't even fully up yet, and in that soft morning light, as he stepped outside, what no one knew, what no one could know, was that these would be his last footsteps. Armed men were waiting. They didn't care that he was a priest. They didn't care that he was loved. They didn't care that a church full of people were waiting for him. They took him, just like that. And while Father Odia was being dragged into the unknown, back at the church, the choir was rehearsing. Children were lighting candles. People were laughing quietly in the pews, catching up with friends, adjusting their headscarves. No one knew what had happened to their shepherd. Not yet. This was a man who had given everything to his calling. Ordained in 2012, Father Christopher Odia wasn't just a priest. He was a father figure, a mentor, a principal, a protector. He led a couple of schools in the area. Education and faith weren't just jobs for him. They were missions. People say he had this calm presence. Not loud, not flashy, just steady and kind. He could correct a student with a smile, or spend hours after Mass helping someone through a crisis. And despite the growing violence in parts of Nigeria, despite warnings and fears, he stayed. He stayed because his people needed him. He stayed because that's what love looks like. When news broke that he had been kidnapped, the community went into chaos. Some ran into the bush, joining local vigilantes in desperate hope of finding him. Others gathered at the church praying, crying, clinging to hope. Maybe he was still alive. Maybe he had been ransomed. Maybe, just maybe, he had returned safely. But hope would only last a few hours. By that evening, they found him gone, silenced. A servant of God taken in violence. His only crime? Trying to say Mass. Imagine being one of those parishioners, sitting in the pew, wondering where your priest is, only to learn later he had died for doing the very thing you showed up for. How do you process that? How do you explain to your children that their principal, their spiritual guide, is never coming back? How do you keep believing in peace when peace keeps getting murdered? Father Odia's death wasn't just another statistic. It was a crack in the soul of a community. And yet, the way people responded, that's where the story shifts. Because they didn't burn the church down in grief. They didn't abandon their faith. They showed up the next Sunday, and the Sunday after that. They wept, but they worshipped. They mourned, but they sang. Because deep down, they knew what Father Odia stood for. He stood for faith that didn't back down, for love that doesn't run when things get hard, for a gospel that isn't afraid of the dark. The Catholic Church across Nigeria and beyond rose up in outrage and sorrow. Bishops called for justice. Vigils were held. His name became a quiet rallying cry for protection of the clergy, for peace in the region, for courage in the face of fear. But more than that, his story became a mirror, a challenge, a reminder that even today, in the 21st century, people are still dying for simply following Christ, for daring to live the gospel, for refusing to walk away from their flock. And that's not just tragic, it's holy. Father Christopher Odia didn't die by accident. He died because he was faithful, because he showed up when it was dangerous, because he was willing to walk into a world that needed healing, even when it meant risking everything. He is, in every sense, a martyr. And while the world may move on, while the headlines fade, his story still whispers in the hearts of those who knew him. And now, maybe in yours too. So if you have ever wondered what real courage looks like, it looks like a priest who woke up one morning to say Holy Mass and never came back, but somehow still leads his people, even now.